Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in our Chill Hill Frosty series. I gotta work on that opening. Today, we're gonna build the dumbest oxygen system I've ever seen. We always end up building SPOMs, which requires taking water and putting it into an electrolyzer. Except we've done this 1,000 times. I want to try something new. But while we've uncovered a lot of vents and geysers on this map, I have still yet to find this mysterious carbon dioxide geyser, and it is clutch to our plans, as it's not only going to provide carbon dioxide, it's also going to keep the area nice and chilly. So it's time to do some more exploring. And I suppose I want to go down here first because, well, there's another vent and geyser in here. I want to find out what it is. I could go through here, and that would probably be the quickest. In fact, if I end up putting a manual airlock, we won't lose too much of that. Yeah, we will still lose a lot of that carbon dioxide. A, and B, it would make digging down here kind of tough. So I'm thinking the way to go is going to be through here. Unfortunately, we have our nice little food area here. So I think we have to go through this way. I'll dig this up. We'll put a new floor in. I'll get everything sealed up. And to tell you the truth, it'd be good to let that carbon dioxide drop a little bit. Turning off these wood heaters has helped a little, but we still have a little bit of excessive carbon dioxide. And then I'll do something like this, and that way carbon dioxide is still guaranteed to stay down in here, even if we're opening and closing this door a little bit. I have to dig up this Aloe Vera in order to put another tile here, but this should work out well. If you remember from last episode, we did unlock the fire pole, so I think it's high in time we put one of those in. Eventually, I'm going to be moving all these Aloe Veras because this is our primary run right here. So I'm thinking right here on the left-hand side will work just fine. We don't need for the pole to go all the way up to the top. Yeah, we do. Who are we kidding? Let's just go down here. We started at 68 tons and we finished off with 59. Still got a little bit more to go, but we can say 10 tons of ore is what that cost us. We also are increasing our iron supply, our refined iron that is. Now this power system over here has a current load of 60 watts. Now we do know that when the incubator is on, it's going to produce more than that, but I think we can still run the entire grid off of one line. But man, is that an expensive run, especially considering we're about to remove all this. So why don't I make a direct path through here? I'll start off with some wonderful snowy tiles because they are nice, and build the bare minimum size path for the dupes to get through. That should work out well. And then I can start extending this refined iron. We're down to about a ton already. This is going to take a while. In fact, right now, if this carbon dioxide rises, it'd be better for it to slip out over here and then down, because it eventually reaches our Aloe Veras. Like I said before, all that is going to change in the future, but for now, it'll work out well. I'll just put some wonderful little ladders. It's a temporary system that is feeding a temporary system that is eventually going to be overwritten by probably another temporary system. Our little carbon dioxide trapdoor is in, so now we can just dig on over, and then I'm just going to use a standard ladder run and head down. I don't like how this is figuring out. Maybe I just drop this ethanol? I'm going to want to pump it into our ethanol stores anyways, so a ladder right here would be a little bit better. Although this is going to take some creative digging because I want this ethanol to drop into here. All right, here's the plan. I'm going to temporarily do exactly what I said I was going to do. Then I'm going to open this area up and then I'll drop this ethanol in. I'll be able to build a wall in here, push all this ethanol over, and then we'll take it all out. Ooh, we got another lumen quartz. And there's one in here. Oh, wow, and there's 4 more right here. They have 1,000 lux. I'm thinking these would be a great use for these bonbon trees. I mean, the shine bugs don't produce that much light, and they still grow there. Especially if I start stacking these quartz. We have our first meteor shower since we've exposed ourselves to space. And here comes all that beautiful crushed ice and snow. As a reminder, we are getting icy nectar meteor showers. Although I don't see the nectar quite yet. More crushed ice. In fact, I don't see any nectar down here, which makes me wonder, does it come down as a liquid and then disappear into the vacuum of space? Do I really want to build a catch for these meteors? Oh, I'm starting to see some future plans. We've got another ton of refined iron, although it's not going to take long to use it. In fact, we are just about spent, which means I need to queue up even more. Let's do another quick 50. That first batch of 50 is almost done. You can see the brine's at minus 12, which is not too bad. And remember, it's still transferring a little bit of heat from the surrounding environment. In fact, I'd rather not dig out this nice cold stuff. So what I can do is come over here. I'll dig down through here, and then I'll dig through there. Eventually, we'll get it all drained over there. And this will still leave a lot of cold tiles right next to our tank, which will help keep all this brine nice and chill. Our next printing pod had 3 shine nymph eggs. We're definitely going to grab them. But the reason we are is because I keep printing out more shine bugs and nymph eggs and dropping them off in these little cavities here. The more light, the more nectar. Here's our first splashdown of some ethanol. And, well, I guess I'll just open it up right there. Instead of doing it there, that way it all flows down and then flows back down. I think we're also going to end up digging this up and these, so it drops the level a little bit, and then I can build a wall up here. And because we are digging, I am going to put another wood heater, say right here. This will help keep the duplicates warm when they're coming or going from doing all their digging stuff down here, because I think after we figure out what this is, we're going to continue voyaging south. Oh, it's a nice little DIY cot, a few more lumen quartzes, a random smart-looking smart storage box made out of copper, and another wood heater. We're going to deconstruct it. Oh, look at this. There's another vent or geyser, and even more ethanol over here. We are also up over 335,000 calories, so I've been slowly getting rid of more pike apple bushes, which helps in a couple different ways because farming is so dupe labor intensive, it really does end up costing us. But because we're now taming these mammoths, and we've got almost 2 full stables of floxes, we're getting a lot of omelets. Not to mention the fact that we're also able to eat these plum squash, which are not bad and equivalent to lettuce, just raw. And right now we're still burning through wood, even though most of the power spine is switched over. So I'm literally just going to deconstruct everything here. We're also going to be able to recapture all of this beautiful wire, which means I don't have to replace it. Now I will need to relocate this rock crusher, but I plan on eventually keeping this whole area chill. So I don't see any problem with putting the rock crusher over here. It'll take a couple of more mesh tiles and some more power. But the idea of this system is if I can keep as much heat around in here, well, I just have to chill one area. Eventually we'll get to the spot where we don't care too much about the chill because we'll be independently cooling everything like the Phlox farms. We'll also need some cooling for the Mammoth Ranch because, well, the Mammoths are hot boys. Their body temperature range is between 30 and 70. In fact, taking a look at this 30 cycle old Mammoth, you can see that it still has a temperature of 50 degrees. Well, our plum squashes only like it to minus 14. So you have a couple of solutions here. A, you could move your plum squash plants elsewhere and then just drop them off with a critter feeder. Or you can let them graze on the plum squash plants directly. Both ways work, but for right now, this is the way we're doing it because, well, everything is centrally located. Speaking of which, we're up to 25 units of reed fiber. What are we waiting on? We need to make some clothes. It has been a very long time since I've actually made clothes, but we're doing it now, which I hope Clay ends up updating the clothes making system, because right now we have like snazzy suits and warm coats that the duplicants need in your course of playing the game. Well, when you put little blueprints on them, they look completely different. All right, textile loom, where are you? There we go, right next to carpeted tiles. With this all being torn down, we can also recapture all the granite from this gas pipe. We will eventually be doing something else with this, but for now, we're back up to 1.5 tons, so hopefully I can get all of this replaced now. We're seeing a lot of circuits being overloaded, which only ends up costing us metal because they want to keep repairing it. Will we have enough at 690? 65? Sadly, no. But very close. After we get done with the rest of this batch, we should be good. And this brine is still at minus 11. We have finished analyzing the cool salt slush geyser, and it looks like we have to wait another 38 cycles. That's not great. We finished research on the textile loom, and I don't think it's an industrial machine, so it's not going to interfere with the stable. So we might as well save some space and put it right in here. Except I'm definitely not building this out of mercury. We need more iron. Stand by. There we go. Now I'm going to have to go through the list and see who doesn't have a warm coat, or who's not frost resistant. It'd be really nice if they expanded this vitals menu to see what they're wearing, and maybe a drop-down box that allows you to select a skill or something. That'd be nice. Another pod, another shine nymph. This is getting really convenient. After all that, I still ended up building the loom out of mercury. Now we have mercury everywhere. I'm sure nobody's gonna get poisoned. Oh, not in our food supply? Yep, normal atmosphere. Apparently you don't want your food touching mercury. Who would have thought? Second time's a charm, this time out of iron. Double checking, yes, it is iron. Now right now the brine's up to minus 8.4, so I'm gonna halt this for now. We don't need any more iron right now. We have managed to update our entire grid, and I'd rather that pool stay nice and chilled. We still have 35 cycles, but this does bring me to the point of something else we've been wanting to create, and that's gonna be in our kiln. Over here in our textile loom, we're gonna create one warm coat, because I think I have an easier way to figure out who needs them and who doesn't, which is going to require 4 reed fiber per coat. A snazzy suit also requires 4. Unfortunately, we're not going to be getting any decor bonus using the warm coats. So I'll just start with 1. Thank you, Chris, for the majestic creation. As soon as I find it in all this debris. And now we can see who's wearing what. Why is JM Mort in a snazzy suit? They are not frostproof, so we need to take that snazzy suit off. So for right now, I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. Except I know we have another frost-resistant dupe. So I'll just click over here on the bio, and then just keep going down through the duplicates like this. JM Mort, not frostproof. And with that tab open, we can go through them really quickly. Ah, Synth is frostproof. And Synth is the only other one. So we have 2 frostproof dupes and 2 in coats. So I'm going to need 6 more warm coats, which we don't quite have the reed fiber for yet, but it's coming soon. This mammoth scale growth is already at 95%. This one's at 87. My goodness, we're up to 380,000 calories. I'm getting rid of these pike apples as well. So now our entire foods colony supplies are coming from these plum squashes, mammoth meat when they pass away, mammoth omelets when we have extra eggs, flocks when they die, their pike apples, and their omelets. I'll keep an eye on that calorie count to make sure we're still going up, but not having to ranch those pike apples is going to save us a little bit of time. In fact, why don't we put some phosphorite up here too? Because eventually we're going to have some auto sweepers in here to help manage this whole system. In fact, we have auto sweepers ready now. Mikey Sheep also got their last skill point and is our mechatronics engineer. Chris Hoffler is also. So that means I can start automating some things with some shipping, which is in line with what we're trying to do with our oxygen system. Let's get solid transport and see how we're doing here. It looks like we have just a little bit of ethanol to mop up. No big deal. And then I'm going to build a couple of tiles. I'll open that up. This is going to push all this over. In fact, I'll just dig it down one more too. And then I'll build it up from here. We've also carved some of these quartzes, so for now, I'm just going to move them right next to a couple of trees. Now, I don't think by themselves they put off enough light, but combined with the shine bugs and other quartzes, this will be nice. Oh, happy day. It looks like we're about to cross over on cycle 100. Get ready. Pull out your confetti cannons. And yay! Makes me wonder, do the dupes consider that 1 year? Is that why cycle 100 is important, or is it just the whole arbitrary, the first 3-digit cycle? Now, as a note, because I had dug all this out, I needed to build a little platform in order to be able to carve this lumen quartz. But now that it's ready, I'm going to move it over here. And now between all the shine bugs and the quartz that we're bringing up here, these bonbons should grow quite a bit. Why is your production halted? Oh, because you don't have any branches. Our last warm coat is going on Mikey Sheep now. Everybody should be pretty happy. I'd like to put that last snazzy suit on Synth, since they don't need a warm coat, but I don't know where we left the last one. Let's game the game a little bit. Select snazzy suits and then just click them. There's one right there. Put this on, Synth. You'll be happy and you'll look nice. Now I'm wondering, with the duplicates in warm coats, can I disable these wood heaters? We're gonna find out. Well, confirm that they are sleeping just fine, even though the wood heater's not on because they're wearing the oh, that's Synth. Lily Sap is sleeping just fine, but notice they have the sopping wet debuff. Probably because they're digging through all that ethanol and they don't have a wood heater to dry off with. But that's only lasting for another 10 seconds, so I think we'll be okay. Ah, yes, I found you, you beautiful carbon dioxide geyser. You might be wondering why I'm so excited about a carbon dioxide geyser. Well, the reason is simple. It produces carbon dioxide at minus 55 degrees, which is the first time that we've been able to find a resource which is going to be able to chill everything back down. Granted, it's carbon dioxide, so let's not get too excited. Now I have all this ethanol ready to go, and there's a couple of methods we could use. I could just take one massive pipe, go all the way up and dump it, but I don't see a lot more ethanol down here. So I don't know if bringing power all the way down here sort of makes sense. I could put a bunch of buffer tanks in here, load them all in the buffer tanks, deconstruct them, and then they'll take the bottles and bring them up. But that's a lot of dupe labor too. I guess we do have a power wire right here. All right, I'll stop being lazy. And it looks like we're gonna need more iron. We'll queue up another 25. And already this brine is back down to minus 11. Now on the subject of the kiln, it is time to start our refined carbon production. And on normal colonies, you're doing that from coal. But with the advent of the DLC, we can now go from wood to refined carbon. It's 100 kilos worth of wood to 50 kilos worth of refined carbon, so it's not too shabby. So we're going to queue up a quick 50 of those as well. Speaking of wood, production is doing fantastic. We're up to 33.4 tons of wood, and I'm going to keep stockpiling that because eventually we're going to have a whole ethanol distillery. It's going to be a whole thing. Now see, this is just not fair. What am I supposed to do with the purple polyester suit? Oh, I know. Oh, Freya, come get your wonderful purple polyester suit. Oh, that is just fantastic. Looking good, Freya. With power going in, it is now time to transport that ethanol. This isn't really a priority, but I'm doing it anyways, and I figure the quickest route's gonna be through here. Oh, this is just perfect. And then we'll just come right over, and I'll go to the top, and we'll just drop it off right here. I don't think there are any other ethanol deposits, but that's the amount of ethanol that's gonna have to last us until we get our whole spigot and bonbon tree production going. And I think I want to do that in space for the funsies, so we're gonna wait on that. Nope, found a little bit more ethanol down here as we're digging to find out what... This is a carbon dioxide vent. Unfortunately, it's at 500 C. Sorry, you're too warm. Go away. But I think we're also gonna pipe this supply up as well. We have found so many of these lumen quartzes. They are just everywhere, which means I'm gonna need even more power and some more pipes. Perfect. I mean, look, we keep finding more quartz. We're getting lower and lower, and we keep finding more. One thing I realized, because all of our even old growth trees are not producing nectar, and it's because I harvested their branches. So they got to regrow their branches before we even get access to the nectar again. So I think we're actually going to disable harvest on the branches, something like this. And then I can just enable the trees themselves? Yes. This is the way. Granted, this is going to take me a lot of manual clicking, but we're going to get a lot of nectar even before we're supposed to by doing this. Now, granted, I'm going to be mopping up ethanol all the time, but that's okay. We can use the ethanol too. Oh, and look, there's some tallow. Now, the tallow recipes all require 1 kilo, unless we're talking about fish tacos or shellfish tempura. Everything else takes 1 kilo. We have plum squashes that are a terrible quality. We could be eating squash fries. Unfortunately, our wonderful deep fryer is stuck behind applied sciences research. I mean, does it really take applied sciences to make a deep fryer? It's oil. You dunk the food in oil, it comes back out. Looks like we'll have to wait for our wonderful squash fries. Now, just to be sure, I want to make sure this tallow, it is liquefiable. It melts at 80 degrees. but it does not go off. So we can just store all of our spigot fat right here in the storage bin. Apparently it is found under liquefiable, and I'll keep it on a priority of 4 because we're not in any hurry to load it all up. Our ethanol ponds are slowly draining, which is going to be great because we're not using a lot of ethanol to begin with out of our petroleum generators. In fact, last 5 cycles we have an average use of 13%, and that's when we were running the metal refinery, so I'm not too concerned. We also found a copper volcano. Apparently it was the last hidden vent or geyser on the planetoid, so we have access to copper and aluminum from a volcano. Very excited about it, although it's going to be a while before we crack that nut. So for now, I think it's time to put in what may or may not be a good idea. We're going to see. I'm starting to believe that those meteors are actually dropping off more bonbon trees. I don't remember having this many bonbon trees up top here. So possibly they're planting seeds? I do not know. Let me know what you found out in the comments below, but I could have sworn we didn't have this many trees. We have 7 idle dupes, and we have finished this pond here, so it looks like we're ready for our next project. I was kind of hoping for this one to be finished up as well, but that's okay, we can get started. Now, the whole idea of what we're building here is an oxygen supply station. With the carbon dioxide, which its next activity is in 6 cycles, so I'd like to boogie a little bit, producing not only the chill to keep the aloe vera alive, but also the carbon dioxide, which means we're going to need to do a little bit of math. After analyzing our carbon dioxide geyser, we can see that the average output is 164.2 grams per second. Well, our aloe veras only require 2 grams per second, which means we could run 82 aloe veras. Well, we know that each duplicate requires 3.33 aloe veras, means we could run 24.6 duplicates on this colony. And oh, by the way, we plan on putting the aloe veras into farms and fertilizing them, which means we could actually run almost 50 duplicates off the amount of carbon dioxide that this one carbon dioxide geyser produces. Let's see how this ranch comes out. In fact, I can make more room right now just by doing this. I think the general shape of this farm is going to be about here. If you remember correctly, in our rooms, a greenhouse can be 96 tiles, and this is a little bit more than 96, so we'll have to account for that as well. But this is going to give us a couple of nice rows like this. In fact, why don't I just do something like this? I'm going to use nothing but airflow tiles for this second row. Wait a minute, they're going to need to be able to get up and down too, so maybe this is it? Somehow Naz has gotten stuck, so I suppose we need to help the Naz. I'm having a problem figuring out a design, rather trying to decide if I want to maximize the space in the greenhouse or just make it fit. And I'm coming up with the make it fit option, although all this space would just be kind of wasted. So what I think I'm going to do is separate this even more. Once this is all picked up, I'll be able to dig back in through here. So let me get rid of all this nastiness and this weird stuff going on, and once I have a good frame, I'll let you know. We've reached the point where it's low enough to where we can mop it up. I'm also going to put a sconce in here because, well, we're getting all this carbon dioxide bleed off from here, which is no big deal. We'll deal with it later. And now I can get rid of all this nonsense. Now I will need power down here, so we might as well do this somewhat right. Oh, who am I kidding? Let's just do it all. The liquid carbon dioxide geyser has started erupting, and I think I managed to get it done enough in time. We still have a lot more work to do. Notice that all of these floors are separated by airflow tiles. That way the carbon dioxide is free to pass through any of these farms. And then this over here is going to be something a little special. While the dupes are working on that, I wanted to give you an update on the ethanol. We have about a half a tank full, so this is probably going to last us for a very, very long time. And I suppose the first thing we need to do is put down our aloe veras. Now, right now we have 10 duplicates. So let's hypothetically say, let's build enough oxalite for 16. We don't have access to the farm stations, so it will take 3.33 plants per duplicate, so we need 53 or 54 plants. We'll make them the pretty sleet blue again. I'll leave enough space for the farm stations. That gives me 29. I'm thinking this is what, 46? So this should be plenty, which 46 divided by 3.33 equals 13.8. So right now, just with the size of this farm, I can support 13.8. Once we get the farm stations in it, I can double it. So why don't I just make this a little bit better and fill up this whole thing? Yep, that's what we're gonna do. All said and done, we have 64 planter boxes, which is enough to support about 20 duplicants, 19.2 to be very precise. And once we get the farm stations in, we'll be able to support almost 40 duplicants. Or just to be safe, we'll say 38. So the next step is going to be ensuring that the duplicants can get in and out without it being a horrible, horrible problem. Because they're gonna have to harvest each and every aloe vera plant. Well, it's filled with carbon dioxide down here, and while we'll eventually use suits so it will not matter, for now, I think the wonderful oxygen mask checkpoint will do just fine. We'll put a couple of docks here. In fact, this ladder rung is not really going to work there because there's neutronium, so we'll probably just use this one right here, which means I'll be able to get another dock in there. It also means we're going to need to craft some masks. We'll once again utilize some of the space inside the Phlox Ranch, and we'll queue up some iron masks. Pretty sure that was a movie. And while we only have 3 docks, I'm going to queue up 4 because you always want one spare for when it needs to be repaired. And then we are going to click forever on worn oxygen mask. As a reminder, it doesn't take any materials to fix the oxygen masks. It just takes dupe labor. Now we're going to have to fill it with oxygen. This is where stage 2 of our little plan comes into play. And the start of the plan looks something like this. Granted, I'm probably going to have 15 different revisions. But the whole idea is that all the oxalite that comes out of here is going to be put into this little tiny room. This room is going to have oxalite that lands here and here. It's going to be split 50-50. But what's more interesting about this setup is what we do with it afterwards. Because each auto sweeper is going to load oxalite as much as it can onto these conveyor loaders. The leftovers are going to sit here and oxygenate this room fully, which we're then going to have access to oxygen via these 2 gas pumps. The rest of it is going to ride rails all the way to our colony and, well, never be dropped off. We're going to oxygenate our base just by the oxalite riding the rails. Now already we have 2,600 grams worth of carbon dioxide pressure, so I'm going to disable this for now because we still have a little bit of building. But it goes without being said, our first use of gas pumped oxygen is going to be these suits. So I think we'll just come in through that way and do the same that way. And that way, if we do add more suits in the future, I can just split off right here. Now, in places that are already overpressured, the idea is that the oxalite is not going to go off. It's all the other places that we want to bring oxygen that we care about. Now, interestingly enough, we actually have to loop the whole system because otherwise it'll end up just stopping, because inevitably there's going to be a piece of oxalite on every rail and the whole base is going to be oxygenated, so that rail would just stop, which maybe that's a decent idea. And then the rail line could just fill in the gaps as need be. I don't know. This is going to take a lot of tinkering and, quite frankly, a lot of iron ore, although we are up to almost 100 tons. Both conveyor loaders are going to ride the same line, and we'll start by going up. Now, where it's possible, we don't want to be on the bottom of a row. Reason being is because that's where carbon dioxide hangs out. So we're always going to try to navigate the base via the top of these rows. All we should really have to do is go straight up, and wherever we want oxygen, we just bring this line. And I think for now, the way we're going to do this without having to get too complicated using a loop is just put a conveyor bridge right here. The conveyor bridge will force all the oxalite to travel the rail, but not continue past. If we didn't have this bridge here, why aren't you canceling? The oxalite wouldn't flow from all the way over here because there was no input to travel to. Now we're occasionally, at least at the startup, going to get some carbon dioxide in the suits. That's no big deal. We'll just repair them. I have re-enabled the oxygen mask checkpoint, which means it's time to do some work in here. Now the key is going to be making sure that the auto sweepers have enough vision to be able to hit everything. So I think we'll get rid of this planter box there, and that should cover every single tile. Oh, brilliant. That ice can go away too. I need to sweep all this. That's gonna take a little while. Actually, no. I can use the ice that's in here to start the fertilization. And while we don't have the resources quite yet, we're eventually gonna have automated ice dropping off. into our conveyor receptacles, but that requires solid control research, which once again requires applied sciences, so we can't put that cart ahead of the horse. But for now, we can take all of this oxalite out, and we'll do that with some wonderful conveyor loaders. Now, the one disadvantage of these being airflow tiles is the fact that the oxalite would still be able to go off, but it should always be overpressured in here. So I'm just going to do something like this, and they're all going to meet up and join over there. In fact, we can just do that, and that'll still give us a 50-50 split, even though this looks kind of ugly. Oh, I forgot an entire ranch. Hold on, I've got a better idea. We'll just do something like this, and then maybe separate this flow. Eventually, we might be able to have some overflow systems that they backfeed into each other. So if this one's getting more oxalite, well, it can supplement this chamber. But to be honest, the only reason that there's two is because oxalite will only release so fast. And I want more than 500 grams per second, so that's the reason why we have two chambers. Now, what am I forgetting in here? I don't think anything else, which means I can actually start sealing this up. Might as well start planting some of the wonderful aloe veras. We have 471 seeds in before clay nerfs this wonderful plant. And the great thing about this system is it's going to be self-correcting. We can plant all of these, and the only thing it's really going to hurt is our ice supply. Right now, duplicates are spending dupe labor and fertilizing these plants, and I don't want that. I want the auto sweepers to do it. So I'm going to go increase the priority on all these power lines so the auto sweepers will pick up the ice that's already sitting on the floor instead of Mikey Sheep, you wasting some time. The first of the plants are ready to be harvested, so I'm going to make sure all these say oxalite. I should have waited until all the construction was complete before I planted them, but it's okay. All that oxalite rides the rails and then ends up in this little chamber, which provides some oxygen for the oxygen mass docks. And then once I'm satisfied that all the constructions in here is done, I will then start loading up these conveyor loaders with all the excess oxalite. Right now, we do have the issue of it being a little high pressure in here, but we're eventually going to start pumping all this carbon dioxide in here as well. But like I said, eventually it's not going to matter because we're going to be in normal suits and not these oxygen mass docks. Over on the primary side of our base, we have been deconstructing all the wonderful planters that were growing all the aloe veras because we don't need them anymore. Can also get rid of those. And sure, this one too. And we also have a room full of 1,800 grams worth of oxygen. So anytime we need a gas pipe full of oxygen, we have it. And we also have oxalite being stacked, which means it's time to do a little bit of this. Make it say oxalite. Same with this one. The auto sweeper will fill this as much as it can. And then the oxalite will start riding the line, which means we don't need any sconces anywhere in our base anymore. Because we have a giant incense stick full of oxygen? I don't know. The rail that keeps on giving? The O2 Express. So already I can tell you we do have a problem. Our wonderful conveyor rails, despite them being empty, can't just really disappear. They gotta go somewhere. It's the little baskets, not the oxalite itself, because all the oxalite here is already gone. So back to the original plan of actually looping this. And I think we'll just do it something like this. For some reason, it looks like the game does not realize when the oxalite is out of the little baskets. So we're just going to send it all the way back and have them split between both of these little conveyor chutes right here. Not ideal, but it's going to work. That is much better. We're just now starting to get repressurized in our base. I am going to have to keep an eye on to make sure we don't overpressurize the area, which depending on where the carbon dioxide's landing could definitely happen. So there's probably some little tips and tricks that we're going to do along the way just to make sure we're not overriding too much carbon dioxide. As you can see, like right here, it says 3,500 grams. We're also getting some weird functionality here, so I'm going to add a conveyor bridge so it'll do a 50-50 split here. And that way both of these conveyor chutes get an equal amount, because right now it's just this one conveyor loader that's working. After looking at this for a little bit longer, I'm thinking this is still too much. So I've got another idea, and our researcher is going to be finishing up with that in just 1 minute. And that is to give us access to the Atmos sensors. I think this is exactly what we're going to need. The long and short of it is, we're going to have the Atmos sensors tell us when the pressure is too low. When it is, it's going to send a green signal all the way over to the conveyor loaders, which will then allow the conveyor loaders to start shipping more oxalite. And because they're just sitting here, fully loaded with a ton of oxalite, a lot of oxalite is going to go on these rails very quickly. Now the key is going to be what to set them at. If you set it too close to the max, well, one's going to trigger the conveyor loaders when another area doesn't really need it, or it's going to detect carbon dioxide. So what we could do to make that even a little bit better is use some AND gates. But instead, I'm just going to use filter gates, because the filter gates are going to make sure that it's actually receiving a request for oxygen and not merely a carbon dioxide blob passing over the Atmos sensor. So if we're running lower than ideal on oxygen for 30 seconds, in other words, N Atmos sensor has to be saying, hey, we need oxygen for more than 30 seconds, then the green signal will pass through. And I think to start, we're going to say 1800 grams. Copy those all through. And now no oxalite is traveling the rails. Much better. I'm happy with this system, although I'd probably redesign it another dozen times. But some of the things I do like about it is the fact that we have oxygen delivery anywhere we want just by extending this rail run. We also have oxygen available for anything that needs piped oxygen. We also don't have to worry about manually storing all the oxalite. Already we have about 1.5 tons here and 1.5 tons here. It's got a return system, so we're not wasting any oxalite. And so far, it's doing pretty good. Now, all it needs is a name. Let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments below, and please, help me out with a name for this system, because the railed oxygen delivery system doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.